സ്ക്രീൻ സൈസ് ഫുള്ളാണ് നോക്കട്ടെ. സ്ക്രീൻ സൈസ് ഫുള്ളാണ് നോക്കട്ടെ.
Export the Esmeralda, and whatever EVOS SG do, it just does not seem effective. Look at this dive.
This is where it started to snowball right here. As we see, all these members with very low health still trying to defend that bottom side tower. I felt like they should just let it go. Like, there's no advantage being given as well. And now we're zooming past and towards the top side. This is where Ace tries his best to actually pull a little bit more of that advantage back in towards EVOS. But look at that dive coming from Broly. He had one person trying to take down all three members over the top side, and they did manage to take down Ace as well for that mega kill.
Yeah, and at the same time on the side you can see Chang'e Hai getting that kill on the carry as well. Potato has not been able to be effective this entire game because of how VFM were playing, and instead of going for all those forceful dives, they were doing it knowing the rest of the team is back. Teeny went for that dive. People say it's risky, but he has the immortality, and they just slowly choke EVOS SG out. This was the final push, the straw that broke the camel's back, and VFM, they just closed it out convincingly.
Yes, indeed, and we see a little bit of that back and forth action going on, and even total for that Esmeralda.
Yeah, and I did point out that you have to keep your eyes on the Esmeralda, on Broly, especially. He's been playing the Esmeralda, he's been playing the Hellcat, and both these heroes, when he gets their hands on them, he gets down and dirty, and he does manage to secure all those targets from the enemy team, and we can evidently see one man dive in the tree, fully confident, and just creates the space.
chứng tiebreaker vô lịch B này.
At Axiata Arena.
That's right, and that will be happening over the weekend. And make sure you guys secure your tickets to Axiata Arena to witness history unfold right before your eyes. And if you guys are avid fans of Mobile Legends Bang Bang, there is no reason for you guys to miss this one out. Now, back into the draft we go as we'll be open, and we've already seen that Grok being contested as well. So let's talk through some of all these sort of pickup that VFM will be looking forward to, because they will take the 2 picks in one go.
Yeah, and if you're EVOS SG, you have to think, do I want to leave the Grok open? Do I want to ban out Kufra? They have been banning Kufra for 2 games in a row. They're going to make it 3 consecutive games, the entire series. They are not letting Kufra through, and VFM, they found a way to deal with JLPL's Grok. So now they can have a bit more window to consider other choices, and they're going to ban the Hylos, which has been a thorn in the backside for VFM.
That's right, and for EVOS Esports SG, they can still rely on other sort of frontliners other than the Hylos as well. So Grok's definitely going to be in the picture, while VFM now could actually go for that Kaja that we talked about, and instantaneously locking that Changer as well as Kaya at the same time. But I gotta say, Hyde played a Changer equivalently as good as Odir Bambi.
Yeah, and Odir Bambi went for Chang'e in game 1, went for the Gord in game 2, and there was a stark difference that Gord was not as effective in the early to mid phase as compared to the Chang'e. A perfect deny pick. VFM, they are so confident, they were like, alright guys, let's first face this Chang'e. We're not giving away any breathing room to EVOS SG, and they're doing it just right. Now you have the Kaya. If Zhao Piao gets called out, this is slightly better than Cho, because you don't put yourself out of position. So VFM would definitely appreciate this. EVOS SG, they go for the Valiant, and they might lock in the Masha.
That's definitely a great start for the side of EVOS SG. Now, of course, they're giving away a lot of all that sort of pressure in terms of team fighting. But look at what VFM is up to right here. Great sort of a pickup potential, especially with Divine Judgment as well as Hurricane Dance. With that sort of combo, you can actually force a lot of all these team fights in their own favor. And with that being said, EVOS needs to actually respond right now. What should they ban away in this very final phase? And this is life or death for both teams.
Yeah, and you have the Masha on your team. You have to be thinking about banning the Tamus out again, because VFM Tamus is looking particularly juicy for them. And if Tamus gets banned, VFM, we've seen them play the Leomod. Teeny on that Leomod was absolutely amazing. Crushed RRQ in both the games that they win and lost. So VFM, they have a plethora of options to go to, and EVOS, they're going to let both go through that ban phase.
I like the idea of having that Leomord to come in towards the phase, but now, of course, we haven't seen Leomord being played throughout Group A so far, and Soul is one player who does dish out that sort of pick from time to time, and that Phantom Steed is definitely vital in terms of getting themselves that sort of great teamfight potential that they have. And now, and towards the very final lap for VFM, and the opt to lock away that Harif from coming into the picture. And of course, EVOS could still go for that sort of a double mage setup and turn Harif in towards that marksman. So now, from the side of VFM, they gotta secure their marksman right here. I feel like it's either that Granger, Claude has already been banned away, so there's also carry, but I would say that from the side of EVOS SG, they're eyeing on getting themselves that carry in their hands.
Yeah, absolutely, and pick your poison right now is the name of the game for VFM. They have played the Leomod actually against RRQ 2 games in a row. They won one, they lost one.
Totally forgot about that.
But TD was amazing on the Leomod, so we can't deny that he was an absolute monster today. And like you said, they're gonna pick up the Granger first, because both Damos and Leomod went through. If VFM wants, they can pick any one of them if the situation calls for it. Now it's EVOS' turn to make their choice.
Pretty tough picks here, and EVOS really got to decide really well. They've only got about 30 seconds or less to make sure that they get through and towards the next phases of M1 World Championship. Now, Potato as well, so making the and terms of the early game. And wow,
Esmeralda.
we totally forgot about the Esmeralda as well. And it's great to see Oh Dear Bambi securing this for a second time coming. Well, in that sort of sense, this is also, in a way, having a lot of great magic damage output throughout the entirety of EVOS' lineup.
Yeah, instant deny pick of the Esmeralda. It could be another option that VFM can choose from. So you kind of narrow down the alternatives for the Vietnamese team. But they're gonna stick with the Leomon over the either the Leomon or the Damos. It's just up to the kind of playstyle that they want to bring to this.
Yep, and for the pick of Esmeralda, all they have to do is just try to actually get themselves that sort of early lead for Oh Dear Bambi. And I would say that VFM really has to look out for that Valor, because that is definitely going to be one of the key members of EVOS to be chunking out a lot of all that damage in all these fights. Now, heading in towards this sort of picks for both sides, who do you favor the most to actually take the series between EVOS versus VFM?
I'm still slightly leaning towards VFM simply because of how aggressive they are in terms of efficiency when they get the heroes that they need. The Archive, the Chang'e, the Granger, maybe not the Granger, the Kaja, especially these three cores. But on the side of EVOS, I think this is a 50-50 game.
That 50-50 indeed, and now it's really down to the execution, because all the drafts we saw, even sometimes when you do get that pick in your favor, it may not be exactly the way that you wanted to, if there's going to be any sort of a comms breakdown, or even, getting that sort of jitters, because sometimes, so for some of all these players, they may be familiar back in their hometown, but now this is definitely not their home turf in that sort of sense, where they are playing at Malaysia for the current time being. So, of course, the Singaporean side has visited a lot more than VFM in that sort of sense. Maybe they might feel a little bit of comfort, but of course, that's all these sort of speculations that we can possibly talk about. But now, Game 3 is about to begin, as we will see who will be walking out alive in this matchup between EVOS SG versus VEC Fantasy Main.
The deciding game of Group A, and it comes down to Singapore, Malaysia against Vietnam. Can Vietnam break through that Great Wall, or will EVOS actually stand?
Well, we're talking about walls here. There should be no barricades separating them from what they are looking for. The prize prize pool of $250,000 US up for grabs. But look at Soto right in between all these members of VFM. Of course, pretty much of a gutsy move coming in from Seoul, but Masha is pretty hard to take down, especially in level 1. But look at the side of EVOS SG playing their signature style, just being aggressive on those raid spits. But from the side of VEC Fantasy Main, they're replying with the same sort of response over on the bottom side of the jungle.
Yeah, and Game 3 is always the most fun game to watch because everything just goes out the window. Now, instead of playing traditionally, playing by textbook, you're looking at both teams who want to try something wacky themselves. So they're trying to go for Broly, but not a good choice right there. 3 members from VFM in the vicinity, forcing this Masha back.
Well, we're still seeing Seoul here buying a little bit more time for himself, but look at LPL though, bringing up the walls, and now it's going to be Lucky jumping in between, trying to clear out the way. This might just be first blood in the hands of EVO Singapore.
Yeah, EVO Singapore, they know that they had that siege minions, that siege wave. There was no way this level 2 Archive will clear that wave out in time, and they just pounced on him, getting that first blood. VFM, they tried to go for a similar response on that bottom lane onto Seoul, not able to get the same result.
Yeah, and we're seeing a rival for the side of the Tamas, as well as a great sprint for the Kai and for VFM here. We're already seeing them getting into position, trying to catch out JPL, but look at that go. And EVOS SG, they had some clear-cut options over on the top side, and they've already opened up a little bit more space for themselves as they try to secure the first circle of the game.
Yeah, when you play against Kimi, you have to always keep in mind that your structures are actually just jello against this Gatling gun of the particular hero. But VFM, we talk about how they use all this space to secure objectives. They just got the first turtle of the game.
That's right, and of course, speaking of securing something right there, there's something for you guys to secure with the redemption code as well. But oh my goodness,
Max!
Oh, that was way too close.
Yeah, his fingers must be severely shaking, severely shivering from that flicker, but it did keep him alive to fight another day, and that also means that EVOS SG will find it harder to transition that particular collapse into anything else.
We're looking at all these members resetting this fight, and VEC Fantasy Main, they know that they cannot afford to commit in any of these battles for the time being, and look at them go. JPL always getting all these sort of great advantages against VFM, and now, speaking of him, he's just going to be eyeing out on towards the lower side of the jungle, and Lucky's going to push them all the way back. Flicker has been forced away from the side of Ace, and look at JPL, still trying to trade all the way back, and they've already got all the information that they need, while Tamus is having a little bit of a solo time 1v1 over on the top side against that Masha. So, not much has actually concluded out of that sort of tickle in between the way, but Over There Bambi is not even giving themselves any sort of good time at all as they try to take down the second turret over on the bottom side.
With Meteor Shower from high, managed to clear out the entire minion wave, and Kimi Potato taking a bit too much damage, but now the 1 versus 1 continues. Is just a brute fight for both top laners.
Well, not only for the top laners, it's going to be a little bit of that river. In the way of landing a Divine Judgment. Oh, it's going to be a 1v1 commitment, but so will definitely bail out of this. Ooh. And well, Flicker being popped here, and of course not that wise of a decision, but look at Over There Bambi coming with an ult, and that will be a rival out of that in just a split second of the time. Well, I would say great plays coming from both sides.
And second turtle going to VEC Fantasy Main. TD forced out the flicker from Soul, gets the arrival, avoided Oh Dear Bambi. That was just perfect game sense from this Stamos. And even though right now EVOS has a slight goal lead, but those turtles are going to add up eventually, and T-Max gets the Divine Judgment. Then it's 1 kill onto Valley. It's going to be 2 because of the Hurricane Dance. They find the Grok as well. Zhao Piao not going to survive that, and Oh Dear Bambi has to get the heck out of that fight.
Whoa, he's walking into his trap, and what was he thinking cutting back in towards the brush? He could have just walked inside of the jungle, but Oh Dear Bambi making a little bit of a slight mishaps here, and EVOS somehow losing that lead. And speaking of lost lead, let's have a look into what just happened right here by the corners. And not only that sort of kill, look at Bambi. He hopped right back in, and he walked through the edge of the brush, which is something that should not be made in that sort of scenario. Now, EVOS at least get a little bit of that trade back or consolation prize over the lot.
Or maybe not.
Oh, yep, maybe not.
Yeah, so they found it with that is Sonata, and Soul will have his Soul claim, and Hyde will find him. Zhao Piao again called out by the Divine Judgment. They try to finish him off, but TD pops that ultimate. The rest of EVOS now coming out to back up. T-Max is going to get gunned down by Potato, but Hyde with the Meteor Shower will rain on top of Esmeralda. And oh dear Bambi, EVOS actually not having a good time in this one.
Oh, this is definitely very unlikely of the playstyle of Oh Dear Bambi. He hardly make this sort of mishap across the battlefield, and now he's 0 to down in his early phase. But of course, it's still not too much of a huge deficit. But in terms of goal, we see that power spike headed towards VEC, but Lucky is going to get caught out with that wall charge. And oh my goodness, we talk about Lucky. Yes, he is indeed very, very lucky.
Meanwhile for Broly, maybe not the same treatment, but back up is that T-Max protects this Granger, gets him out of safety. And EVOS SG, it seems like the jitters might be slowly getting onto them. They know that they have the entire pride, the entire weight of 2 nations on their shoulders.
And of course, this is not the only EVOS team that's around. There's also EVOS Indonesia, of course known as EVOS Legends. Here, look at that sort of swing of a goal, suddenly in the favor of VEC Fantasy. And wow, things have definitely turned red. And VEC Fantasy Main wants to fly the red flag with the stars right in between. And look at JPL, already by the corners here, and this is way too much for VFM, for him to actually deal with VFM. That's going to be the side being bought there by Oh Dear Bambi, but Sunny falling pretty much low. He could not actually contest with the Masha for any longer. But Towers has been lost, and VFM here is just taking absolute control of those river.
Oh, they found Bambi. Bambi instantly assassinated once more. That is the third time they caught this Esmeralda with his pants down, and VFM, they did not hesitate to jump on him. And meanwhile, another man fight is against the Martian, and Thomas, guess what? Lucky, not gonna make it fair for him, and so will lose his life, and Evil's SG falling apart across the entire map.
One after another getting caught out is not looking good for the side of Evo Singapore, as we see 7-2 in favor of VEC Fantasy Main. And of course, Tiny getting even more tough to deal with in towards the late phase here. And we're seeing members of EVOS now once again on the back foot, but can they defend? We talk about the Great Wall, or in that sort of sense, the great defensive strats that we see from EVOS SG. Could they pull one up and perhaps come back in this game?
They will need to rebuild the wall at this point, because VFM, with every single passing second, they're getting closer and closer to that crystal, that structure that EVOS actually desperately needs to hold on with their life. But VFM, we talk about their efficiency with objectives. Under 9 minutes, they're going on to that Lord EVOS SG. They don't have a way in, and this is a free Lord for VFM.
VFM here is securing what they need to end the game. But of course, this is just Lord level 1, which may not be the tankiest of it all, but it should be sufficient enough for them to go in for a great setup. As we look at the wave, it has already been pushing from the top side as well, and we see Soul running for his life, and Potato still getting some of all these items out as well. Now, 9 minutes into the game, but EVOS SG now on the back foot here, and they desperately need this one win to actually get at least that tie into their hands. But if they do win VEC Fantasy right here, which means that up to head-to-head, they will still be above VEC. So it's really down to the wire, do or die moment for the members of EVOS. But same go VFM here, getting that huge confidence of that previous game, and now we're seeing a 1v1 on the bottom.
The disarm does come up from Soul, but he just does not care. He's gonna eat it for breakfast. Solo kill, and meanwhile, Zhao PL has to run away, but they will fight it with the final shot from Broly. 2 down for EVOS SG. The wall builder has been taken out of the picture for a good amount of time, and now the meter shot is going to be a celebratory ultimate for now.
Well, now things are looking pretty bleak, but there's still members alive. It's all up to the Valor Esmeralda as well as Kimmy to hold the fortress right here. And Valve bought there from the side of Thomas as well. And now they're committing to actually go in for the pull. And Tiny already having a little bit of momentum. They're going to end this game. They're turning things around.
The defense is coming in from EVOS SG. They're going to play from behind, but VFM, all this is red. It's Vienna written all over the scoreboard, and they will survive. The war has fallen, and VFM, they lock in their spot.
They managed to clutch things up, and decisively, VFM take the series 2-1. But it was definitely a long, hard-fought match for the side of EVOS SG, as this will be the defeat that will seal their fate. And unfortunately for them, they will not make it past in terms of calculation. But we still have a little bit more to see who will possibly get the first seed for Group A, because we still have another matchup coming up much later on between Impunity KH as well as RRQ. But wow, what a match this was. Initially we saw EVOS getting the lead, and slowly with a couple of mistakes, and then VFM punished them for it, and now we're seeing Hyde as the MVP of this matchup.
They just got all the picks that they need, and they capitalized on that advantage. EVOS SG, I wouldn't say that it was an outdraft. I would say that VFM just felt in the zone for the last 2 games, and with this win, they are actually a point ahead of RRQ, 6 points compared to RRQ's 5 points, who still has 1 game against Impunity PH after this. But we're going to take a look at the highlights of this particular game. The last recap, brought to you by U-Mobile.
That's right, and we're seeing EVOS Esports, of course, getting some pickups here from the side of VAFM, and this is where things start to turn around as well, where, of course, that 2 kill leads, and Bambi here making that sort of a mistake, which I would say was pretty costly, especially with the kills going in the hands of Chang'e right there. It's definitely not favoring the side of EVOS SG. And of course, who could forget this 1v1 battle between Tiny as well. So, but Seoul, of course, didn't really have as much items as compared to the Towers right there, and they will definitely have to falter. But now, down to their final moment, the last breath. EVOS tried their best to clear off the minions, but they could not even clear off all the other members of VFM, as they will be able to clinch this victory. And we talk about the reverse sweep. This is the first one that we're seeing here from VFM. And wow, this is just day number 1. There's still more to come. And next up, we of course have the matchup between RQ as well as Impunity Khmer. And we're already seeing so many of all these great sort of meta being shaped up. So how are you feeling about all these sort of picks that you're seeing for today?
I'm feeling amazing. I think that the diversity that these teams are bringing in, and because we've been looking at MPL domestically for a really long time, and to see these other regions coming in with all their creative picks, how their stress, the aggressiveness of VFM and RQ is definitely a commendable one for day 1. And at the end of this series, we already have to wave goodbye to our very own domestic champions, EVOS SG, and VFM. They deservedly earned that win.
That definitely something that was well deserved in that sort of victory for the side of VFM. And I definitely would say that EVOS Esports definitely put up such a great fight, especially in game number 1, where we saw there was not much of a response coming from VFM, and not many teams could actually achieve such a feat coming from a huge team of Vietnam. And well, now that we've already seen what they can actually offer, VFM, of course, now will try to find themselves that top spot. So if ever Impunity were to actually win a 2-0 series against RRQ, then we might just see a little bit of that sort of tiebreaker going on in that sense.
Yeah, and if you are VFM right now, if RRQ lose 2-0 to Impunity in the coming series, VFM will actually lock in first seed in the upper bracket in the playoffs because they have the 6 points and RQ only have 5. So it's definitely a bit a very nervous moment for RRQ. But we have an interview with the winner for VFM, so we're gonna throw it to the host for him to interview and look at how the players have to say.
All right, we are actually here with the victors of that match, and well, we have an interpreter for him. So, can you ask him to introduce himself and the team?
They are team for VEC from Vietnam. So basically, this is the captain for T-Rex. Then it's besides for translator for Chinese.
Okay, can you ask him first? What does he feel right now?
The feel right now. So 你会问下他的感觉现在如何？拿了2-1的感觉。
Đang hỏi là cái cảm giác của em về cái trận đấu vừa rồi như thế nào?
Trận đấu của em, cảm giác vừa rồi là rất là hay. Em lật kèo một pha lật kèo thành công và mang cái chiến thắng cho cả team để bước vào vòng trong.
我们觉得这次我们打得很好，然后我们已经有一次翻盘，然后我们最终可以获胜。
So they are doing very, very well in this competition. So they are making for the comeback for 2-1. So they will say they will more at the good stage.
All right, okay. Now this is gonna be interesting because they were behind. They were behind in game number 2. Game number 1 they lost. What is their mindset? How did they communicate in game number 2 for them to get back to the victory?
在他们输第一场的时候，他们是在第二场是做过什么怎样的调整或者沟通，在争取第二场的这胜利。
Thì đang hỏi mình là mình đã thua ở trận đầu thì qua trận 2 á mình đã làm như thế nào, mình đã trao đổi hoặc là có thay đổi chiến lược như thế nào để mà mình giành được chiến thắng.
Qua trận 2, qua trận đầu thì em cả team đã rút kinh nghiệm và pick lại những hướng counter lại đội bạn này và đè đường luôn từ lúc đầu để thắng áp đảo đội bạn.
通过第一场比赛，他们吸取了一些经验，然后第二场比赛的时候就选了一些比较好的、适合的英雄，所以才有优势。
So basically, they in the first round they will keep it for the experiment because they still don't know how to play for the FOSG, and then the second round they make it try less than do the mistake. don't do the mistake. Even then they guessed it well.
All right, okay. So can you just ask them what can we expect from them onto the playoffs?
你们对于在 playoff 时候有什么更渴望的期待之类吗？
Em có mong đợi gì vào những cái trận playoff tiếp theo?
Em nghĩ là những trận playoff tiếp theo thì sẽ rất là hay và cả team em sẽ xem và sẽ rút ra những điều gì, học hỏi xem được những gì.
我们认为后来的那些 playoff 比赛会很精彩。我们会先看其他比赛，然后吸取经验。
So basically, in the playoff fight, they will make more like more good for in the team fight and more like more nice with the team fight and the player. So basically like that.
Okay, so much. Thank you so much. The captain of Team VEC, of course. Now we're gonna get back to the casters to wrap this show up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
That was some great interview that we have from VFM. Of course, coming back from that sort of reverse sweep is no easy task. And wow, I definitely would say that they proved to be one of the strongest teams out there to challenge the rest of the world.
Yeah, exactly, and I like what the captain of VFM mentioned in one of the answers. He said that the first game was an experimental, and we talk about how they woke up and they picked better picks in the rest of the series, and they managed to come back. But with that being said, we're gonna go for a short break, and when we come back, the last series will kick off, and we'll see RQ take on Impunity PH. We'll be right back.
They told us that it's just a game. That nothing will ever come out of it. That it won't bring us fame or glory. That it won't make our country proud. They told us to stop wasting our time. Well, let them say all they want. We'll prove it to them. We'll be the champions. Mobile Legends Bang Bang World Championship 2019. M1.
You may have been denied. You may have hit rock bottom. You may have been craving for the lights. Now, all strive for one goal.